Good day, everyone. I am Martin Briones, and I will be reporting for the topic school, specifically the topics intended learning outcomes, school as social system model with its theoretical perspective and its major assumption, and the functions of education. So to start our report, let's start with the intended learning outcomes. Within the unit, the pre-service teacher will be able to first discuss the basic concepts of school as a social system and how they impact individual learners, classrooms, schools, and the larger community. Second, intended learning outcome describes social interactions and their importance in building harmonious relationship with a wider school community. Last, intended learning outcomes concretize strategies that build relationships with parents or guardians and the wider community. Next topic will be the school as social system model with its theoretical perspective and its major assumption.
Social system model. The major sociological perspective on education fall nicely into the functional, conflict, and symbolic interactionist approaches. It is from Valentin and Hammock of 2012. To start our explanation, let's start with functional or functionalism. Education serves several functions for society. These include socialization, social integration, social placement, and social and cultural innovation. Latent functions include childcare, the establishment of peer relationship, and lowering unemployment by keeping high school students out of full-time labor force. Problems in the educational institution harm society because all these functions cannot be completely fulfilled. Functionalism can be synonymous to the roles and goals of the given institution. As for education, the goal of the school is to hone and develop a socially active and aware individuals in the end of the school year. But this function cannot be completely fulfilled because of some particular reason. For example, the students stop going to school. Therefore, teachers cannot teach those students. As a result, it causes a problem to the society as there is an additional of those individuals who are not socially aware and active, which may result into things such as unemployment. Next is conflict theory. Education promotes social inequality through the use of tracking and standardized testing and the impact of its hidden curriculum. Schools differ widely in their funding and learning conditions, and this type of inequality leads to learning disparities that reinforce social inequality. How does education promote social inequality? For example, a rich student can go or study in a private school with better quality education compared to those who are enrolled in a public school with less funding, which results into the school not having enough facilities and equipment to support the utmost learning of the students. This inequality then results into conflict as students start arguing with each other in which school has better fundings that results into better quality education. In short, the difference between the fundings of private and public school will also show the difference between their educational quality. Next is symbolic interactionism. This perspective focuses on social interaction in the classroom, on the playground, and in other school venues. Specific research finds that social interaction in schools affects the development of gender roles and that teachers' expectations of pupils' intellectual abilities affect how much pupils learn. Certain educational problems have their basis in social interaction and expectations. Social interaction is one way of giving students the ability to learn by interacting with other students, which may result into better and higher quality of education. As a teacher, you are not the source of knowledge, but a facilitator. In other words, you should emphasize the application of social interaction in learning. In this way, students create their own knowledge by interacting with others, such as sharing their thoughts and ideas in order to come up with a base knowledge. By giving them the freedom to interact with other students, you are giving them the ability to explore, assemble, and create knowledge on their own or with a group. Next is, what is social system? Social system is a system made of different parts. So these parts are structured and have their role to fulfill. Next, systematic relationship between the parts. Each parts, as mentioned earlier, have the role to fulfill, and the results of those actions will affect the other parts. Example, education will affect economics and society as the students are the one that will operate in those given sectors. Next, functional relationship. For a part to function, the part related to it must fulfill their roles in order to have a working social system as a whole. Last is create a new entity, and arrangement create new patterns. The continuous fulfillment of the roles of each part will lead into the development of the whole system, which results into a different entity of the system itself. And the new entity of this system must provide a new pattern that involves how each part should work on about their roles and function to the whole system.
Next topic is the functions of education. Functional or functionalism theory focuses on the function that the education must fulfill based on the society's various needs. One of the most important functions of education is socialization. As the name implies, socialization means being able to socialize with various groups of people, meaning, in this function, the school must teach the students to socialize and connect themselves to the concept of what a society is. In other words, an introduction to them to their purposes in the society in the near future, and also the right conduct and behaviors that they must possess to be able to be part of the society. School teach the 3 R's, which are reading, writing, and arithmetic, but also includes the society's norms and values such as respect to the public officers, competitiveness in one's chosen path, and many other more. These norms will mold the students to become a great contributor and a responsible individual in a society right after they finish their studies. Second function of education is social integration. This function focuses on how education promotes and educates integration to the students. For functionalists, people must subscribe to a common set of beliefs and values for society to work. If socialization focuses on introducing the students to the concept of society and living in it, social integration, on the other hand, focuses on real-life situations that will ensure that the students will behave appropriately in the society. In other words, being able to blend in with different kinds of people on the society. Third function of education is social placement. Beginning in school, students are identified based on their performance, whether they are bright, outstanding, underperforming, and etc. This placement will help the students understand the concept of placement not just in school but also in the society. The goal of social placement is not to segregate the students with the capabilities to the students without the capabilities to be a productive member of the society, but it is for them to realize the place they have in the society and the things that they must do in order to be on the top of the society. This promotes competitiveness and ability to empower themselves and the people around them to act based on what they needed to be able to rise into the ranks. Fourth function of education is social and cultural innovation. For every individual to perform in their specific field of expertise, they must undergo through many subjects that will lead them to what they want in life or in their chosen path. No one started as the most outstanding individual, even the gifted ones. Every one of us followed a process that molded or created us or as who we are today. These learnings from the school are to be taken as concepts that will innovate an individual to be able to perform with the utmost performance in their chosen field of expertise. Education doesn't limit their function to what was already stated. There are also several functions that are in direct effect of education. These are childcare, establishment of peer relationship, keeping millions of students out of full-time labor force, especially to those who are underage, and many other more. There are a lot of functions that education must fulfill in order for the society to be able to proceed well or perform well. If these functions are not met, then it will create problems and will cause fracas between education and the society.